Today we get to work on one of my old cars, and it is our 2+2 gray Z32. This car actually has a really bad ABS module or actuator leak, so we're going to be replacing that. And not only that, we're going to be showing you guys how to bleed the brakes on a Z32. As you can see here, this one is very leaky. Can't really tell where it's failed yet, but it's definitely leaking very badly. So before this thing can really start to leak out and damage all the paint and really make this car to start rusting at seams and stuff, let's go ahead and get it taken care of. But we're also going to show you guys how to bleed the brakes by yourself, because a lot of times people are confused or have been falsely informed that you need 2 people to bleed brakes. Well, you actually don't. While it makes it much easier to have 2 people, it's not a must, and we're going to show you guys how. Really about the only tool that you need here is a 10mm wrench. If that really doesn't work and I start rounding it, I always use vice grips. Not recommended. Get the right tools. It'll serve you much better. You also need some brake fluid, DOT3, and we have us a new ABS unit. Can't say there's always a place to get these from, so if you need one, drop it in the comments below and I might be able to sell you one, because we got parts. You'll also need a 10 and 12mm socket, one for the ground right back here, and then the 12mm for these bolts holding the ABS unit down itself. For removal on a 2-seater, it's a little bit different. You got your 2 12mm right here. All of your brake lines are essentially the same order. That should be a 10mm, and that will likely be another 12mm like the rest. You'll just have to remove a couple panels to get access back here. Realistically, you could probably just do it removing what's right here. If you guys need a revised version, let me know and I'll make a revised version if need be. Also, you need a bunch of shop rags or shop towels so you can soak up all the excess brake fluid. I don't always wear gloves, but I feel like it's appropriate here because it's very, I don't know, damp. Pull each of your connectors off here. This top one has a tab on the bottom, like that. Probably won't be able to see it. Easy as that. Let's grab our 12mm and crack each of these loose. Alright, now each of those are loose. We're actually not going to fully pull them out yet because we want to have this seated while we remove the lines so the unit does not move around. Grab your 10mm and pull off that ground. Now take your 10mm and crack each of these 6 lines loose here, preferably starting from the top. So if you need to, you can move each of these other lines out of the way to crack these ones loose. These ones should crack loose pretty easily because they're not exposed to anything. Once those are all cracked loose, remove your 3 bolts. You may have to hit it to kind of knock it loose. Mine was a little stuck to the floor. Now scoot it back to where your bottom 2 are no longer in it. And pull it out, preferably faster, especially when it's leaking like that. This dude is totally toast, so let's go ahead and just throw it in our scrap pile. Probably gonna start dripping a bunch of fluid. Just get your rags down, start soaking that up. I've obviously got a lot of cleaning to do anyways, so we're gonna do that now. Let this be a testament of why you shouldn't let this go this far. That is paint right there. That is just bare metal. That totally ate it. And I literally just wiped it to clean it, and the paint, whoosh, no good. I know it's not super clean, however, it is good enough for where we're going. I'm actually going to give them a shot back to clean it all out, just because I have a spare. Now this all will be cleaned up later on. We're just going to throw the new unit in for now, because this thing over here keeps leaking. So grab your new unit and just kind of slide it in the same way you took the old one out. So you can try to line up those bottom ports for your brakes. So these obviously need to go lower. And it's probably better to go ahead and get it started, threaded by hand, before you try to do it with the wrench. And we'll start these before we actually get the bolt holes lined up as a priority. Now, since those are so leaky, let's just go ahead and snug them down. Nice and snug. Since this one's actually all tight, we'll go ahead and pull this rag out. Give it a couple swipes with a nice clean one. Clean up all the residual. Now put your 3 bolts back into position. I'm going to start with this back bolt because I feel like it's going to be hardest to get to. Once you get one started, it's very easy to get the other 2 started. Make sure the one without a washer goes on your ground right here on the back here, and then your one right here with the washer goes here on the edge. Once your ABS unit is all mounted, go ahead, if you didn't tighten this down already, snug this other brake line down all the way, and then clean up any of the drips that may have dripped. Best way is to use a flathead and a rag and just stuff it down in here. Once you get that cleaned up, go ahead and reinstall your ground back here with your 10mm bolt. Forget your ground bolts are always shaped like this. They will not have a washer. Once you've got that all cleaned up, go ahead, move each of your lines down in their positions. Put the actual pipe in first, and then begin to thread in the brake fitting. Helps you align it so you don't cross thread it, and it really helps for you to be able to finger thread it as well to get it started. Now snug each of those up. Now once you get them all snugged up, come back here, take each of your wiring connections, plug them back in. After that, you are all done, and that is how you change the ABS unit in your Nissan 300ZX. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. We'll see you in the next one. Peace. Just kidding. We still have to bleed the brakes. Don't just do this and hope or think that you're all done, because now you have tons of air in your system. And we'll move on to the engine bay. Now if you check out your brake master cylinder, odds are you will have no fluid in it. And now as long as you don't pump your brake pedal to pull in air, you're fine to go ahead and start bleeding. It's when you got air in your master cylinder that it becomes a big issue. I recommend to follow the factory service manual's procedure, as they made it for a reason. I'm pretty sure each of these pertain to sitting in the driver's seat looking ahead. So your left rear would be your driver rear. Right rear would be passenger rear. So that helps clarify that a little bit. But if you are having any troubles, just look at this and see what you think is right. Let's start from the farthest to the closest. That'll help you out the most. Sometimes I don't do it specific. I just do it either or. But I always go back and bleed it a second time, so even if it's not right, we get the air bubbles out anyways. Step 1, lift the car. Hold the wheel. Now use the wheel as your chair. This right here is your brake bleeder valve. It likely will have a grommet on it if it hasn't been too messed with, to protect it from contaminants and debris, which I can't even get mine off. So here, if you have to, take a socket, crack it loose to make sure that it opens. So that way when you go to put a wrench on it, unless you have a flare nut wrench, that you don't strip it out, because that will make a lot more problems, let's be honest. As long as it's cracked loose, it'll open and close just fine. And take a water bottle. If it's not just dry water bottle and you got a little bit of residual water in it, put some brake fluid in it, absorb all of that water, get it where you have no more droplets, and then dump it out. Brake fluid absorbs water, and the last thing you want is water in your brake system, as it will rust everything out and cause your fluid to go black. You don't have to use a water bottle, you can use anything that's clear, because that's really just what you want to see, because you want to see the air bubbles come out. Use your choice of hose. I use vacuum hose. I think this is 4mm silicone to put on the nipple here, and I put this inside of the water bottle so I can see the fluid that comes into the bottle as it comes out of the caliper. Submerge it in the water bottle all the way to the bottom, and then fill it up about 1 inch with fluid, so that way the bottom is completely submerged with brand new brake fluid. Do not use old brake fluid, just like so. Depending how long your hose is, you'll need something to prop it up to where you can fit this on the fitting here and then have your bottle sitting. Cinder block is perfect for the application here. Put your hose all the way on your bleeder nipple. Make sure your hose is fully submerged. Crack it loose. It's all loose. Before you start the bleeding process, come up here to the master cylinder, fill your master cylinder up with brake fluid, and make sure this always stays filled up with fluid. Last thing you want to do is pump this and pull air back into the system. I always fill it as high as I can because we're pushing it all out. So the more time you get pumping and pushing fluid through, the better. I try to limit my brake pumps to sets of 5, so that way I can make sure that the fluid stays high. Well, the bleeder's cracked. I'm going to go into the car. We're going to pump the brake 5 times, like I just mentioned. 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to be pretty tough to pump because it's vacuum assisted usually. As you can see here, we are no longer completely full. Now we'll probably do 1 set of 10 pumps instead of 5 pumps, since we know how much fluid's traveling out. And if you come back here and look, you can see all of the old fluid is coming out and it's gross. So the point of this being submerged is as the air comes out, we want it to pull fluid back instead of air, so there's at least fluid in the system. As this comes out and we fill the bottle up, the better fluid will be at the bottom, so it'll eventually cycle out and you will know when you're clean in the system. Now I'm going to go pump the brake and show you guys what it looks like back here. Now that you guys see kind of what's going on, you just repeat the process until you have no more air coming out. It's kind of hard to tell when you don't have someone else here, but as long as you push enough fluid through this, and ideally you fill up a whole water bottle, you're good to switch to the next one. This way, since you have to come back and bleed it a second time once you get to the ABS unit, it doesn't really matter if you pump it all through. You're at least getting the majority out, and especially when you start seeing new fluid in here, then you know you're in a good spot. Up a full bottle of fluid now. Let's go ahead and switch to the next side. Let's go ahead, pump the new fluid through and see if it gets any clearer than what this was. So that way we know that we pretty much gone through all the old fluid and are onto the new fluid that's not all contaminated. Still looks to be a little dirty, so we're going to pump a full another one out of here. This may be just cleaning out all the rest of the system on the way here, so this shouldn't really persist throughout each of the lines. I would hope not. So at least fill it halfway, then we'll go to the other passenger, then up here, and then the driver front. I'm not going to show you guys how to do each of them. It's the exact same process, so we'll catch you guys when we're finally done. Once you're all done bleeding your fronts, take your little bleeder assembly and your 10 mil and bring it to the trunk of the car. So next you want to bleed your ABS, and you start by doing that with the front first, which is this side over here. Front right, front left, rear. Crack this loose. Now go give it a couple pumps. Just like that until you have no more air bubbles. This one likely has air bubbles because we're actually having issues with the front, but we have to replace the master cylinder anyways. So while we're here, we'll show you guys how to do this anyways. When you go to unplug this, always have a rag because all your residual brake fluid will fall out. You can see your bottle down here for the rears. Now this one I know pumps fluid like a champ. The rears had no issue whatsoever. Crack it loose. Now pump your pedal. And that is how you bleed your ABS. After you bleed your ABS, I like to go back, do the full bleeding procedure one more time, and then hit the ABS one more time. I don't pump as much fluid. I just pump it a couple times to make sure all of the last remaining air bubbles are out. That is how you bleed your brakes. There's not a whole lot much more to it. So if you guys have any questions, don't forget to drop them in the comments below. I'll do my best to help you out. Factory service manual is available everywhere online. If you have a non-ABS unit, you just do all this without the ABS. It's pretty as simple as that. I hope this helped you guys out. Don't forget to drop a like below and stay tuned for more content. Catch you then. Peace.